This is the accusation. They're throwing around the word treason.
I hate to say this, but President Barack Obama, there is now incontrovertible evidence that he was the spearhead of a seditious conspiracy to subvert the will of the American people and overthrow the United States government back in 2016.
They're saying that Obama knew that Russia did not meddle in the election, did not have any impact in the election.
We must, absolutely must, hold every one of these criminals accountable for the crimes that they committed. They are the most heinous crimes committed in American history.
But yet promoted this idea.
James Comey, John Brennan, Clapper, Rice, Biden was in the meeting. They briefed Barack Obama on Hillary Clinton's plan to, quote, tie Trump to Russia collusion lies. It consumed our national discourse for 5 years.
And then there's been some incredible clips of all these different news reporters, CNN and MSNBC, just saying over and over and over again, clear evidence of Russian collusion.
For 20 years, you had Obama and George W. Bush's Department of Justice go easy on this guy. They didn't fully investigate the case. They didn't show any curiosity about the case. And now Donald J. Trump is asking his Department of Justice to show full transparency. And somehow that's a criticism of Donald J. Trump and not Barack Obama and George W. Bush. If you want to criticize the people who aren't showing full transparency, you ought to go after the administrations that went easy on Jeffrey Epstein, the administrations that concealed this case for 20 years, and the administrations that failed to show full transparency.
When a former president's carefully polished legacy runs headfirst into raw, unfiltered truth, you don't just see cracks. You see the whole facade crumble. Enter Joe Rogan, coming in with the calm aim of a sniper, but the punch of a wrecking ball, cutting through the fluff like it's nothing. And just when you think it can't get any sharper, J.D. Vance slips in with a jab so clean, it leaves no room for spin, excuses, or political theater. What begins sounding like a playful roast quickly transforms into a full-blown demolition job, peeling back the glossy image to reveal the uncomfortable truths most people would rather ignore.
What you know now, do you wish you had a third term? You know what, if I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony, I'd be fine with that.
We know he wasn't really running the country.
Yeah.
We used to think he was actually running the country, and now they're like, no, he didn't even see those executive orders. That was all auto-penned.
You know, first of all, I don't believe, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, whether you agree with Donald Trump or disagree with him, I don't believe in hectoring voters. I believe in persuading voters. Your support is not something I'm given or something I'm owed. It's something you got to go out there and work for. So one, I just don't like the tone of going in. I mean, look, the better question for Barack Obama or anybody to ask is not why black men, it's not how dare you not vote for Kamala Harris.
If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Because trust me, the takedown only gets spicier from here. This demolition kicks off exactly how all legendary ones do, by dragging into the light the things Obama's biggest fans pray you'll never bring up. The image so perfectly polished, you could see your reflection in it. The silky smooth speeches, and of course, those dramatic pauses that made half the country swoon like they were listening to Shakespeare instead of straight-up politics. But Joe Rogan, he doesn't buy the act. He slices through that carefully staged facade like it's cheap drywall, pointing out how beneath all the charisma was a politician who mastered the art of looking busy while accomplishing less than a DMV clerk on a Friday afternoon. And Rogan doesn't stop there. He paints Obama as a man who could market hope like it was the latest iPhone. But when the cameras stopped rolling, he couldn't deliver without a teleprompter, a squad of writers, and an audience ready to forget the past 8 years of, let's just say, mixed results.
No. He gets a glass of Flint tap water, and I swear to God, he drinks it like this. Flushes.
Can I get some water? I really did need a glass of water. This is not a stunt. Usually when something isn't a stunt, you have to say
It's
that.
100% a stunt. When was the last time a president stopped a speech to ask, can I get a glass of water? They would never do that. They would have water ready for him.
According to the way Rogan lays it out, Obama's legacy isn't the story of bold transformation. It's the story of branding genius. The man wasn't just a politician. He was a walking, talking masterclass in self-marketing, able to sell half measures as groundbreaking reforms and spin foreign policy blunders into what he made sound like 12-dimensional chess. And Rogan? He's not afraid to call it exactly what it was. He takes aim at the so-called crown jewel, the Affordable Care Act, stripping away the myth and reminding everyone that behind the glossy speeches were loopholes, skyrocketing premiums, and promises breaking faster than a tech startup that flames out before launch day. In Rogan's framing, Obama wasn't some trailblazer rewriting history. He was a salesman, and America bought a product packed with hidden fees.
The best people age the hardest. I think Obama was probably like a very idealistic young man
Oh, Lord, what's going on now? Who's hollering? I can't even see it.
who really wanted to change the world. And that dude aged more than anybody.
I mean, I'm getting old, so I can't hear that well. I can't see that good.
Who
you
aged
can
the
see it.
least? Trump.
Trump.
just
This is something that
he just brushed that shit off his shoulders like it was nothing.
We knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even senior, 2 regular club championships. To do that, quite smart, and you have to be able to hit.
Rogan absolutely shreds the obsession with Obama's image, pointing out the absurdity of how a tan suit once dominated the news cycle for an entire week. Not because the suit mattered, but because the media would rather gush over his wardrobe than ask the uncomfortable questions, like why wars he promised to end were still dragging on years later. Rogan doesn't let that slide. He jokes that the guy could order a drone strike on a wedding in the Middle East and still end up on the cover of Vogue a month later. That's the level of image obsession we're talking about. And Rogan drives the point home with brutal clarity. If style points were the key qualification for leadership, Obama would still be president today. But in the real world, looking good on camera doesn't rebuild communities, pay bills, or repair broken systems. And that's the uncomfortable truth hiding behind the hype.
The amount of backstabbing that's going on.
That's a very disrespectful attack on the American people who deserve the truth. They deserve to have faith and trust in the integrity of our democratic republic, which has been undermined by President Obama through his direction of this manufactured fake intelligence document, knowing that it was filled with lies.
Like when she got into office, you realize like you're not really in control of everything because there's another person who's in control of each individual department, and they'll stop whatever you're trying to do every step of the way. They get in the way of everything. What are you going to do? You're going to replace everybody?
Just when the roasting feels like it's already sizzling at full boil, J.D. Vance steps into the ring with the first of his 3 precision strikes. And he doesn't waste a second. He goes straight for Obama's so-called bond with the working class. Vance tears down the myth that Obama was ever truly one of them, pointing out how the former president loved to talk about middle America, but treated it more like a campaign backdrop than a genuine priority. He reminds everyone that during Obama's watch, Rust Belt jobs didn't magically bounce back. They vanished even faster, only to be replaced by speeches about how globalization was just the way of the future. Vance delivers it like a surgical strike, exposing how those Midwestern photo ops weren't proof of connection, but pure political theater, staged for the cameras while the factories stayed
Obama
empty.
during this Kamala Harris administration, it changed my opinion of that guy.
I don't understand how we got so toxic, so divided, and so bitter. And
He said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that.
Did you have a high opinion of him
Yeah,
before?
I did. I did just as an intelligent person, a statesman. He's probably like caught up in the system. It's very difficult to make real meaningful change. You think you're going to do something and then you get into office and you're like, oh God, what a quagmire this place is. But watching him just straight up lie about
Rogan jumps right back in, mocking how Obama became the Democrats' ultimate salesman of moral high ground. He points out the absurd irony of a guy preaching transparency while running one of the most secretive administrations in decades. From the Department of Justice hunting down whistleblowers to cozy backroom ties with Silicon Valley, Rogan makes it crystal clear Obama didn't just play the political game. He wrote an updated playbook on how to hide the ball while looking noble doing it. And then comes the kicker. Rogan compares Obama's Nobel Peace Prize to handing out a championship trophy before the season even starts. Because once in office, the peace part seemed to vanish, replaced by business-as-usual politics. But Rogan doesn't stop at the presidency. He goes after the post-presidency glow-up, too. He paints this vivid picture of Obama lounging on yachts, cashing Netflix checks, and charging six figures for speeches to the very corporations he once promised to keep in check. The hypocrisy practically writes itself, and Rogan milks it for every drop, calling it the most lucrative retirement plan ever dreamed up by a man who claimed to hate corporate greed. It's not just a jab, it's the kind of punch that lands, stings, and lingers long after the laugh fades.
It's fun because things are actually happening. Very different than most of the time when people get elected.
And I will shut down the Federal Department of Education, and we will move everything back to the state.
Most of the time when people get elected, they claim all these things when they're running for president. Then they get into office and not much changes.
Individualize education and do it with the love for their children.
And in fact, a lot of what they campaigned on, they don't practice at all. Great example is the Obama administration. The Hope and Change website had to be changed because there was a bunch of stuff in there about whistleblowers.
No, I don't think Mr. Snowden was a patriot. I called for a thorough review of our surveillance operations before Mr. Snowden made these leaks. My preference would have been for a lawful, orderly examination.
Then J.D. Vance steps up for his second swing, and this time he goes straight for the racial politics Obama mastered. Not in the groundbreaking way history books like to frame it, but in how he used his identity as a shield from criticism. Vance argues that Obama's biggest achievement in race relations wasn't closing wealth gaps or reforming broken systems. It was convincing supporters that disagreeing with him automatically made you morally suspect. Meanwhile, the tough policy work that could have actually moved the needle got sidelined in favor of polished speeches about unity. Vance slices right into that contradiction, exposing how the image of a great unifier often masked the reality of a skilled divider when it came to cold, hard political tactics.
Well, let me say just a couple of things. First of all, the president has been very clear. We're not shielding anything. The president has directed the attorney general to release all credible information and, frankly, to go and find additional credible information related to the Jeffrey Epstein case. He's been incredibly transparent about that stuff, but some of that stuff takes time. You've got to assemble that stuff. You've got to compile that stuff.
Rogan wastes no time dragging Obama's foreign policy back under the spotlight. He tears apart the whole no-drama Obama myth by walking through the trail of chaos left behind. Libya in shambles, Afghanistan still an endless sinkhole, and that infamous red line in Syria that was drawn, erased, and redrawn so many times it started to look like a bad Etch-a-Sketch. Rogan hammers home the point that while Obama could sound like a statesman, the reality on the world stage was far less inspiring. His choices didn't project strength. They left allies scratching their heads and enemies walking away bolder than ever. What looked like leadership on paper was, in Rogan's telling, just cautious calculation dressed up in elegant speeches.
Obama did it, and it's disgusting. It's a disgusting lie. Let's play it.
Said that there were very fine people on both sides of a white supremacist rally.
You also had people that were very fine people on both sides. I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists.
Okay? See, that's crazy. I have never seen that last part of it
because the news has said that lie over and over and over and over.
The roast takes a personal turn when Rogan zeroes in on the cult-like devotion Obama still gets in certain circles. He cracks up at how some people talk about him like he's a retired superhero, just waiting in the wings to swoop down and save America, conveniently ignoring the fact that a lot of today's mess was built on decisions made during his watch. Rogan compares it perfectly. It's like blaming the current homeowner for bad wiring while forgetting it was the previous owner who installed it in the first place. Then J.D. Vance steps in for the final blow, shifting the spotlight to Obama's deeper influence on the Democratic Party itself. He argues that Obama's obsession with style over substance didn't just define his presidency. It trained an entire generation of politicians to chase branding over results. The whole Instagram era of politics, where likes matter more than legislation, traces its DNA straight back to the Obama playbook. And Vance's point lands hard. It's not only about what Obama did or didn't do, but how his example created a party more focused on optics than on solving the problems that actually affect people's
I've had candid
lives.
conversations with Tulsi Gabbard about what it was like.
It's a disservice to the American people that former President Obama's office and others who are criticizing the transparency that is being delivered by releasing these documents. They are doing a disservice to the American people and trying to deflect away from their culpability in what is a historic scandal.
She's a person, tries to be friends with everybody, tries to reach across the aisle. She's got that whole aloha spirit.
The answer to that statement can very clearly be found throughout all of the documents that we have released, showing that Russia has took action to try to sow discord in the election, but showed no preference for or against any.
Rogan goes in for the kill, weaving every jab and takedown into one final blitz. He paints Obama as the ultimate political illusionist, distracting the crowd with charisma, while the real work, or the lack of it, stayed hidden behind the curtain. It wasn't hope and change. It was hope as a brand and change as a buzzword. The man could make half the country believe the scoreboard was broken, even as the other team kept stacking points. In Rogan's telling, Obama isn't some tragic figure, and he's not a comic book villain either. He's a cautionary tale, proof of what happens when a nation falls in love with presentation over performance. Every smooth cadence, every perfectly timed pause, every photo-ready smile was part of a larger game designed to leave voters remembering how he made them feel, not what he actually delivered. And in the world of Rogan and Vance, that's the most devastating punchline of all. Obama's brand was supposed to be untouchable, immune to real scrutiny. But Rogan wasn't playing by those polite, deferential rules. He dragged every slogan, every polished line, every inspirational pause straight through the mud until the shine was gone. By the end, what looked like brilliance didn't feel like brilliance at all. It felt like the slickest sales job in modern politics, a masterclass not in leadership, but in selling well-packaged mediocrity to a country desperate to feel good about bad ideas.
Nicknames, the crazy conspiracy theories, this weird obsession with crowd sizes.
The thing that got me was that very fine people thing, the white supremacist thing. They just kept trying to say that he was a racist.
When he's not complaining, he's trying to sell you stuff. You're running for president and you're hawking merchandise. Gold sneakers, $100,000 watch. Why are you selling the watch? What are you doing?
Which is this thing that I think worked in like 2017. I don't think it works anymore. I don't think people believe it anymore. We've gotten numb to all this stuff.
The way Rogan tore apart the myth of Obama's unmatched political instincts felt almost surgical. He didn't just point out the mistakes, he spotlighted the intentional sidesteps. The grand promises tossed into the air like confetti, only to be quietly walked back when it came time to deliver. To Rogan, that wasn't just weak leadership, it was political performance art, where the applause mattered far more than the results. And every time he replayed one of those self-congratulatory Obama moments, it landed like a punchline nobody wanted to laugh at. Because deep down, the joke was on the country. Then, J.D. Vance stepped back into the fray, and instead of swinging wide, he zoomed in on just one area: Obama's self-declared legacy of revitalizing the middle class. Brick by brick, Vance dismantled it. The story the numbers told wasn't one of a working-class savior. It was of a man who slapped a fresh coat of paint on a structure that was still rotting underneath. The factories didn't roar back to life. Wages didn't explode into prosperity. But the speeches? Oh, those sparkled more than ever. Vance cut through the glitter with a blunt truth. For all of Obama's soaring rhetoric about hope, countless communities were left with nothing more than a photo op to remember him by.
Remember when they gave that speech, when he gave a speech on television, and everybody was like, fuck this. And then they were, it kind of just went away.
It was one of the most beautiful moments in modern American history. People really actually stood up and stopped a war from happening.
Today, I authorize the Armed Forces of the United States to begin a limited military action in Libya in support of an international effort to protect Libyan civilians.